Thank you, everyone, and welcome to our session. So in this session, we will be introducing Microsoft Dynamics 365 project operations. And is my screen visible? Perfect. That sounds great. So Microsoft Dynamics 365 project operations is a new offering from Microsoft. It will be generally available on October 1st of this year, and it's an evolution of our project service automation offering and our project capabilities that are in our finance offering today. We are bringing these capabilities, including Microsoft project capabilities, together and coming out with project operations. So we're obviously very excited to be here and to introduce you the new product. My name is Görkan Salk. I'm the GM of Dynamics 365 project operations. I'm based in Seattle in the US, and I have my colleague Rupa Mantravari with me. She's the principal product manager on our team, and I will let her introduce herself. Rupa? If not, I'm sure she will be able to come on during our demo. But Rupa has been with our team and with Microsoft for many, many years, so she has been in this space for almost 10 years in her tenure at Microsoft. So she worked on the project management capabilities, both on the finance side as well as on the project management capabilities that are in project service automation. She was part of the team that launched that solution. So we're very lucky to have her with us. So with that, I'll go into the prepared content for today. So our agenda for today, now that we have the welcome and introductions out of the way, is to give you an overview of the current landscape and opportunities in our space. We'll define what Dynamics 365 project operations is. We'll talk about the product capabilities. We will do an end-to-end demo of its capabilities. And then we'll have around 5 minutes at the end of the session for Q&A, but then we'll have a follow-on session for the deep discussion on project operations. So if you're interested to learn more and then have a discussion on our vision, the product vision, the strategy, and our roadmap, we can certainly discuss those in that session. You're welcome to attend. So if you look at the services economy, we see that it's been evolving, and the services organizations are the fastest to adopt the cloud, actually. So we see that in our customer base, when we look at our ERP and CRM adoption rate, and we see it also in a lot of the analyst reports, that these are the organizations that embrace the cloud the quickest. And it makes a lot of sense. If you look at the needs of these organizations, services organizations need to have a flexible way to respond to changing business models in the services world. They have a need to automate business processes all the way from lead to billing to get the proper insights for their business. And they have a need to optimize their workforce and productivity to ensure project success. And if you contrast that with the needs of a product organization, for the product organization to come out with a new offering is a very capital intensive and then long process, right? They will have like a product lifecycle management type of application in their enterprise that they will use to introduce that product into the market. They will need to do like a pilot. They will need to figure out the manufacturing and how this product will go to the market. And similarly, if they have a need to shift their focus on a different product, right, they need to make sure that the supply chain management their supply chain is supporting that process. They have the right inventories to change that focus. But that's not the case for services organizations, right? For services organizations to introduce a new product into the market is a much more fast process than compared to product organizations, or to shift the focus from one offering to another is also faster. So these companies, in order to be competitive, they need these agile processes where they can just switch their business processes quickly. They can get the right insights from their business applications in order to do so. Although these organizations are very quick to go to market, we still see that they have a very siloed enterprise architecture, right? So they have a sales application where they manage their project sales and opportunities. They have tools that project managers are using, which are disparate from their sales tool. Their finance tool is yet a different tool. Their team members, they enter time and expense in yet a different tool. Resourcing and HR has been done in disparate tools as well. So to get the right insights for their business in this type of an environment is very, very difficult, right? And I have had a similar experience. So many years ago, I was in Microsoft Consulting Services. I was running the Dynamics practice then, and we had around 12 different systems that would store our project opportunity data, the time entry, the expense information. So twice a year, what we would do is we would collect all this data from these different systems. So we would get the opportunities won and lost data from our sales system. We would get the utilization data from our, from our system where time was being stored. We would look at the profit and loss of all of our projects. It would take us around 3 to 4 weeks to get to a point where we had this data centralized. And then we would draw insights from this data, and we would see, for instance, that the dynamics demand in our business was increasing and certain other practices had low resource utilization. So we would make key decisions, strategic decisions for our business to hire more dynamics consultants or to train the other practices on dynamics so that we could utilize them in dynamics projects. Obviously, to do this twice a year and to get this type of insight twice a year is unacceptable in today's world. So what project operations will allow you to do is it will give you this insight in real time, right? What our customers will be able to see is whether the demand is shifting from one offering to another, so they will be able to change their practice resource mix accordingly and then focus on those offerings. And they will see, which opportunities they can compete well, which ones they are not competing very well, and be able to shift their focus, their business focus accordingly. So that's what project operations will allow our customers to do. And if you look at the high-level capabilities of project operations, right? These are the capabilities that you can expect in our offering. And it starts all the way from the sales process. So our project sales capabilities within project operations is built on top of our dynamic sales capability. And it includes features such as resource-based CPQ. So what that means is being able to price and cost a resource based on multi-dimensions. And to give you an example, again, from my MCS days, is you will be able to price and cost the resource, a .NET architect with 5 years experience that's based in Germany at a different price point, and the same .NET architect with 5 years experience who lives in the US at a different price point. And you can certainly add more dimensions to this mix, right, depending on your business's needs. So we have project sales capabilities like that in the product. And other project sales capabilities includes being able to create a project plan and assigning generic resources based on skills to that project plan, pricing and costing these generic resources, and turning them into a quote so that our customers can quote their customers, for any opportunities that they are pursuing. So these are some of the project sales capabilities that you will see in project operations. And after the pre-sales, once the deal is won, right, the project will be transferred to the delivery team. So if you look at traditional services organization where they don't have a single tool, and that was the case when I was in MCS, So the sales to delivery handover is always a very painful one, right? So the delivery team will go in and they will have no idea what the sales team did. They won't know the assumptions, and obviously they will start on the back foot for every project. So having all this information in a single tool allows the project manager that's assigned to that project to see the history, the sales audit, the sales history in the same tool, and can understand what assumptions were made during pre-sales. And then once the project manager is assigned to the project, they will work with the resource manager. And the resource manager is a persona that has organizational level views into all the different projects, into resource availability and the resource mix in the different practices. So the resource manager will work with the project manager to properly resource the project, right? So he will make sure that he maximizes revenue, minimizes cost, in the same time, increasing project success, and he will assign all the tasks, the right resources from the different practices. And once the project is resourced, then the project manager will start mobilizing the project, and the team members will start entering time and expense in project operations. And time will obviously accrue to revenue, expense will accrue to cost, and depending on whether it's a time and material project or a fixed fee project, the organization will be able to invoice the customer either at certain intervals if it's a time and material project, or at certain milestones if it's a fixed fee project. And then the organization will start recognizing revenue and then posting the project journals. So these are the end-to-end capabilities that you will find in project operations. And obviously, these are the different personas that will be involved and be using this business application. So the COO, the practice director, they will be the executive stakeholders. So they will be interested in how their resource utilization is doing, right? Whether they are making money on their projects. The account manager is the salesperson that would use the sales capabilities of project operations. The project manager obviously would be the one executing the project, and then the partner manager would be involved for the areas where the company is outsourcing certain parts of the projects to certain vendors. And we talked about the resource manager being the organizational persona that has visibility to all projects and is responsible for resourcing projects. And then we have the team members, and the project accountant would be the person that would generate the invoices and do the project journal postings. So this is kind of project operations, and the market that this offering targets is what analysts call the pure professional services automation market, right? So it's a standalone solution that targets the professional services. And given the better together story that we have with our finance offering, we're also targeting the service-centric ERP market. And we'll talk about that more in the upcoming slides. So as a background, although project operations is a new offering, we as Microsoft are not new to this space, right? So in the past, we had the project service automation offering that was released in 2016 that had very strong front-end capabilities all the way from sales to time entry as part of its capabilities. And then we had the project capabilities within the finance solution that had very strong back-end capabilities, so all the way from time, expense, to project accounting capabilities. And obviously we have Microsoft Project, who's the leader in its market in the project management and the portfolio management markets, right? That's part of Microsoft. So what we're doing with project operations is we're taking the best capabilities out of these three assets, and we're coming to market with a single solution, right? So project operations will include the breadth and depth of all these capabilities that exist here. And we're leveraging Microsoft Project's newly released project for the web offering that will be embedded directly in project operations. So that's an offering that was released last October and runs on the Dynamics platform. And these are, at a high level, the different capabilities that you can expect from project operations. Again, project sales is built on top of our dynamic sales IP. So it includes multiple contract types, lead to quote processes, right? So project operations will work very well with our dynamic sales offering, as well as with our Dynamics marketing offering, so that you can light up lead to quote to project contract process very well. And then you will have quote revisions and quote to project processes. So you can start with a project plan, attach that to a quote, or have a quote that then refers to a project plan. Project planning, like I said, will be based on Microsoft Project directly. So we will be using Microsoft Project's WBS, interactive Gantt and Kanban boards for support for agile projects. You will have co-authoring capabilities, dependencies and constraints, Teams integration, and we'll talk about that in our demo, as well as materials forecasts with inventory integration and procurement integration. On the resource management side, our resource management capability is based on the universal resource scheduling engine that is developed by our field service engineering team. And we have a better together story there as well. So if a customer has a field services practice as well as a project practice, they will be able to manage a central resource pool, and whether these resources are assigned to the projects or whether they go out in the field and work on certain work orders, there will be a single practice availability visible to the resource manager. And from a resource management perspective, you'll see that we have skills management, requirements and bookings infrastructure, configurable filters and search, reconciliations for bookings and assignments, resource requests and proposals are the deep capabilities that we have there. Time, expense entry and approval are again very deep capabilities in project operations. From a time entry perspective, the scenarios that you can expect in project operations is for the team members to enter the time, for the time being approved by the project manager and the customer. And then we have capabilities where the customer can push back. Let's say the consultant entered 40 hours of their time and the customer said, I will just pay for the 30 hours because the 10 hours I don't approve. Then the 40 hours will go against the cost of the project and the 30 hours will go against the revenue. And then if you look at expense, we have very deep capabilities there where we're not just managing the project expense piece, but we're managing expense end to end. So a consultant can submit their expenses. These expenses will go against the project cost, but then you can also set up policies and integrate to accounts payable to reimburse that person right then and there, right? So they don't have to go to two different systems to enter their expenses. Project costing, pricing, and actuals. We talked about the configurable dimension for cost, sales, and purchase pricing, like the multi-dimensional pricing and costing that exists in project operations. Catalog pricing for products and services is available there, and collections of actuals I talked about is available as well, and with integration to a financial system. We have also very deep invoicing capabilities with periodic invoices, word-based invoice templates, configurable summarization, invoice corrections, taxes, and exchange rates. And from a project financials perspective, we have IFRS compliant revenue recognition, committed cost, retainage, and pay when paid scenarios are supported in project operations as well. So this is a very high-level overview of all of our capabilities that we have, but I just want to highlight these to show you the depth of the capabilities in each of these areas. And when you look at project operations and our unique value there, right? So the first one is the broad and deep solution that we talked about, where we're leveraging our platform investments all the way from the Power Platform with the AI Builder and Power Automate to the existing capable front-end and back-end capabilities, as well as our capabilities with the Microsoft project. So that differentiates us very well in the market, in the sense we're not a vendor that either comes from the ERP background or the CRM background, which you will see is mostly the case. Right? The vendor that comes from the ERP background usually doesn't have great front-end processes, and similarly, a vendor that comes from a CRM background, they usually don't have the back-end processes. But we are fortunate enough where we can leverage our experiences and IP in both these areas and provide a comprehensive solution end-to-end. The embedding of Microsoft project is another unique value for us, right? So you'll see that the project management, the portfolio management, and the PSA markets, the professional services automation market, is going through a revolution, right? Where the portfolio management and the PSA markets are coming much closer together. So with project operations and us embedding the project experience directly within project operations, our customers are able to have their project managers use their business applications right then and there, right? So they don't have to use a different project tool and import their actuals into a business application. They can use Microsoft Project directly from project operations, and that will make sure that the actuals, the financials flow accurately from the project to their business application. And then real-time business insights across your project is also possible by having the sales and financial information right then and there. So if you go back to my old example, right, using project operations, you can see the demand shifts that's happening in the market, right? If you're offering, one of your offerings is being used more or is being sold more, you can certainly shift your practice mix accordingly, and you get these types of insights in real time. So with that, I will be handing it over to Rupa, and Rupa will do a demo of project operations for us. Rupa, you there?
Hey. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, perfect.
Can you all hear me?
Brilliant, Rupa. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Okay. I will share my screen in a little bit, and let me know once you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's visible now.
I'm getting a bad network quality error on my Teams. So I'll just let me know if the screen doesn't shift or if you have any problem hearing my voice. So basically, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what we are coming up with project operations. So this is a landing page. It's a Power BI dashboard that has been pinned to the project operations homepage. As you know, that is completely configurable. You can create your own Power BI dashboards and plug it in. So that's, I have a scenario here where a particular nonprofit organization that is doing, that's providing these pop-up clinics that have come up in the New York, New Jersey area in the US, is using project operations to manage the building of those pop-up clinics and then staffing those clinics with qualified healthcare workers. So that is the scenario here. And what we are seeing, it's a nonprofit, so there's not a whole lot of revenue, but then the organization does need to balance its healthcare workers, their schedules, and also invoice the trust, the other nonprofit organizations who give them the money or the funding to do this work, it needs to invoice them correctly and show them how it is spending the money. The invoice there is not so much about adding a margin and then invoicing, but more about, okay, this is the funding that we got and here's how we spent it. So in this dashboard, a couple of things are being highlighted here. One is that the project costs in the last 4 months of this year, the first 4 months of this year, 2020, the projects have always had a cost overrun. And if you look at the average resource utilization across in certain areas of New York, certain suburbs of New York like Bronx and Harlem and South Bronx, the South Bronx and the Bronx are way overutilized, whereas the East Harlem and the North Bronx are not even as much utilized because the incidence of COVID has dropped dramatically in those suburbs, whereas the Bronx and South Bronx areas are still afflicted by a large number of cases. So needless to say, because of the large number of cases in these neighborhoods, there is a lot of overutilization of healthcare workers in these. And over here, what the customer is seeing is that basically there is a problem with invoice creation. And expenses are the main reason why invoices are not going out on time to these organizations or the funding organizations. So therefore, that is one area that if we enable expenses to be recorded correctly on time, we will be able to generate an invoice on time. And that's what is shown by this report here. So we'll see how project operations will help customers to track all of these trends. So firstly, as a practice manager, I'm going into project operations and I'm seeing that, yes, I'm seeing that my healthcare workers are overutilized. But exactly where are they overutilized? I can see that if I pick the South Bronx area and then look at my resources, everyone there is almost 150% utilized. But then if I go to, say, East Harlem, and I look at the resources there in the first quarter of first 3 months of this year, I see that not a whole lot of healthcare workers are fully utilized in the East Harlem area. So clearly there is an opportunity where, given the proximity of these neighborhoods, I could easily say, hey, when you need healthcare technicians or healthcare workers, please use the people that are tied to the East Harlem area. So I could do that. I could see this trend and shift resources to be better utilized, more uniformly utilized from another neighborhood, given that it's very close to the Bronx, South Bronx neighborhoods. So think of the project manager or the practice manager issuing an edict or a policy to the project managers saying, use resources more from the East Harlem area on South Bronx projects as well. So I'm a project manager. I'm just shifting gears now. I'm no longer the C-level officer that looks at the utilization charts and the dashboards. I am the actual doer and I am the project manager. I see that there has been a project created for me. I need to set up a clinic. There is a clinic in the Morsiana neighborhood that I need to help set up. So when I look at this project, firstly, if you see the budgeted and the spent values, I see that in every case, every role that I have, I'm overshooting my spend is overshooting my budget. So clearly the costs have outrun on this project. But then when I look at the project tasks, this is the Microsoft project being embedded within project operations. So here I see basically a hierarchical view of my tasks. And I also have a Kanban board view where I could move tasks between buckets, and I could also group tasks either by bucket or by finish date, where it is able to tell me what tasks are due this week and what tasks are due in the future. Back in the bucket phase views, I can define my own buckets, and I can assign tasks to these buckets, which is enabling some of these clinic setup and pop-up clinic setup structures that are using the agile planning paradigms. Going back to the team on the project, I see a few people, generic resources that I need to use on this project. And these are the people I need. I need a respiratory therapist. I need a non-ICU physician. I see an ICU technician. I see a critical care nurse that I need. And I need these people from a certain date. So looking at the respiratory therapist, if I try to staff this person, I understand my boss just asked me to use people from East Harlem. And I need this. Mauriziana Clinic is a South Bronx area, and I want to use somebody, a respiratory therapist that's actually in the East Harlem neighborhood. So I will go ahead and try to book this person, and I'll open the scheduling experiences that we have. And I don't see any resources that meet my need. I need 272 hours over starting June 15th through to July. And clearly I don't see anybody here. I need somebody who's a respiratory therapist. So I'm going to change that, and I'm going to follow what my manager asked me to do. And I'm going to see if there's anybody in the East Harlem area who is a respiratory therapist. And I do see one person, so I'll go ahead and book this person to my project. So they're going to help me with filling that role of a respiratory therapist. And they're booked on my project. Let me close that screen and come back to my project page. And if I go to the team tab, I see that Brady Hannon is now assigned to my project. And if I now go back to the budget versus spend and I refresh this, I can see that on the respiratory therapist, let me refresh this one more time. I can see that now, because I've made this choice of picking somebody from the East Harlem neighborhood, they're coming to me at a cheaper cost, because I don't have to pay overtime for that person to work at this clinic, which is clearly telling me that my spend is well within my budgeted area. So now, one other thing that we have in project operations is the enabling of these collaboration scenarios. So whenever a project is created, we have a backing office group, which then can be used to create a team on the project. So going back to the teams, if I go to my teams here and I look at my the team, I'm able to embed my project plan in the Teams UI, and I'm able to use also use the posts and the files to share, of course, Teams as a document sharing repository. And I can also have conversations and enable people collaborating on this project with by tying that office group to the team site. So back on the project plan, there are some really cool enhancements that we have got. So there is an interactive Gantt, and that the Gantt allows you to, it's interactive as in I can move the start date of a task. I can which automatically shifts the project plan. I can create dependencies between tasks that exist, and back on the grid view, let's say I have these bulk operations. Let's say I select a couple of tasks, and then I decide to move them or reparent them to a different node in my WBS. So right now it says I can't move it because I can move it, but then there are some dependencies that needed to be removed. So those dependencies are gone, and now these tasks have been moved. But one other cool thing is, as soon as I moved, the start, duration, and effort got recalculated on this parent. And now the other cool thing is if I decide that I don't want this change or I made this change in error, because this is an Office product and you have all of the Control-C, Control-Z, Control-V, all those shortcut keys that we all know and love, I can use Control-Z to undo my change, which then undoes what I just did and brings those tasks back to where they were. And then the totals are immediately reflected. There is no time lag or time difference in updating those totals. So those are a few things on the project management side of things. Now we had another trend here where we said the expenses are getting delayed on the project. So expenses in project operations will be leveraging the deep expense capabilities that Gurkan was talking about. And we will be using the FNO, finance and operations experience, to enable those kind of expense management experiences where you can set up policies. You can also say, hey, on this project, you cannot record an expense that is greater than, say, $1,000 or something like that. You could set up those policy rules and enforce policy validations at the time when the consultant is reporting an expense. Now, the reason why expenses are typically delayed is because we'll have to gather all of those receipts and then key those in. So that's one major enhancement that we have done is we have enabled OCR or optical character recognition. So if you have a receipt and you have taken a picture of the receipt and you can upload the receipt and the system is able to read and create structured information from a picture of that receipt. Now, at this point, I can either create a new expense line or use it to match an existing expense line. I don't have any expenses here, so I'll go ahead and create an expense line. So it asks me for a category, I fill out the required fields and I hit save, and now I have an expense on my project that I'm able to submit, and then I can shorten that duration between incurring that expense and being able to actually report it. So that's a very big enhancement on the expense side. What I also wanted to show you is as you're creating these projects, those projects are getting synced to FNO. And here our Mauritiana clinic setup will leverage the invoice sync capabilities. So the invoice in project operations, invoice will be raised out of the CE experience. But then once the project manager says, hey, this invoice is looking good, I've done all the edits that I need to do on this invoice, they confirm that invoice, which then results in that invoice showing up for the project accountant on the FNO side. So if there is a project accountant persona, they can look at the invoice proposal that just came in from the CE side. They can review the transactions. They won't be able to make any edits to it, but they can definitely take a print of that invoice and post that invoice to the GL. So that in a nutshell is the end-to-end that we are enabling with project operations. Any questions, thoughts, clarifications?
Thank you, Lupa. And just one comment to add. The demo that we have picked obviously was a relevant demo to the current environment, but obviously since it's not a billable scenario, we weren't able to show you the revenue recognition capabilities, but we have those as well. So for billable organizations that would be charging revenue and then recognizing revenue for their organization, they would have the ability to do so as well. So I think with that, we can go to questions, if there are any questions.
Look, and certainly we got some questions. First question was, how is the licensing for the Dynamics 365 project operations? Is there any specialty?
So the licensing for project operations will be a new license. So it will obviously provide entitlement to all the PSA capabilities that you have seen in the demo, our project capabilities from our finance offering, as well as the embedded project capability that you have seen in the demo. So it will be a single license. Our customers won't need any other license, and they will have access to all the project operations and capabilities end to end. And we will grandfather in all of our PSA customers into project operations. So if there's a question around that.
So, Gökhan, you now have ERP functionality in project operations available, and that is based on Dynamics, I would say, finance and operations, right? So how do you handle other ERP systems? If you know we are in Germany, and in Germany, when you go to the market, you will find a lot of, for example, SAP.
That's right. So we have two main implementation scenarios. So what our customers will be able to do is, so we have service-centric ERPs out there, right? Like SAP, who do have the expense capability, the project invoicing capabilities. So our customers will be able to purchase project operations, light up the capabilities all the way, let's say, from sales to time entry, and integrate to third-party service-centric ERP, such an SAP, if those capabilities are being used. Other customers will also be able to purchase project operations and light end-to-end capabilities all the way from sales to project journals. And then they will be able to integrate to third-party ERP at the GL, AP, AR level. So both scenarios will be supported. It will depend on the customer's needs, but they can do either depending on their needs. So we do support third-party ERPs as well as obviously Dynamics 365 Finance.
So next question, how does materials tie in the, oops, here's something moving, tie into the new project operation? Purchase orders creation for projected or changed material needs. Is there the PMA module in FAO, what is this also being extended?
Yeah, so the PMA module capabilities, so project operations will provide entitlement to the PMA module capabilities. So all those capabilities with the materials integration will be available. What's on our roadmap is to light those up directly from Microsoft Project, what you have seen Rupa demonstrate. So that's on our roadmap, so that won't be there on GA, but the PMA capabilities will solve that problem for our customers that have that. And then subcontracting is a P0 item for us on our roadmap that we want to light up soon after going GA, so that we have an end-to-end flow around vendor management, purchase orders, leveraging capabilities on both F&O and CE.
And the last question, I think a very important one for our customers. When can potential customers expect the trial version?
So we will have a public preview in the upcoming months, obviously before GA. So currently we're targeting it as end of June, and they will be able to try it out with our public preview at that time.
Gökhan, what
Yes.
time is it now in Seattle?
It's 1:30 a.m.
1:30 a.m.
Yes.
You both, Rupa and Gökhan, you did a really great job. Thank you very much for joining us here. You well deserve, I would say, go to bed. I know that you have a lot of trouble and a lot of work to do all the week around. So with a private preview, I was informed we are also in. So thank you very much for your time and spend for us. I do appreciate. Gökhan, you stay with us a little bit longer.
Yes,
in the other session.
Yes,
So
I will in the next session. So if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer those in that session.
So you
but
will
thank you
yeah.
for having us, Peter.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.